Howdy everyone, I'm Connor, and today is Coordinator's Choice number 2. And if you're with Travis with yesterday, you may know that we're doing knot tying today. I'm just going to go through a few simple ones in case you've never tied them before. Maybe you'll learn something new. Maybe you're an old salt and you want to review some knots. So here we go. So the first knot we're going to do is called the square knot, and it is great for tying together ropes of the same thickness or diameter. Maybe you need like an extension to a rope. You need to tie two together. This is how you do it. So what you do is you make a loop on one, kind of like that. Make note of which is your tailing end and which is your leading end. So you'll have your loop like this. You'll go up, around, up through the hole, around the like leading side, not the tailing side. Give yourself some slack there. Pull it through, back down through the hole where you came from, and then you just kind of, it's nice and secure. You can pull on opposite ends, and it's like pretty tight. Nice thing about this is you can use it again to extend your rope length, but also it's pretty strong, it's fairly secure, and it's also not very hard to untie even if the ropes are wet, because you can just like push them together and they come right apart just like that. Note that you can make it dance. Your tailing ends are on the same side. That's how you know you did it right. There's a sneaky deaky variant of this knot called the thief knot. And I will tell you the story of that momentarily. But the thief knot is just like the square knot, except instead of going up through the hole, if I can get it here, up through the hole and then around the leading side, you do it the opposite way on the tailing side. Up through the hole and then around and then back down the hole. So you still have, it looks like a square knot, but you'll have your loose ends on opposite sides, and you'll also notice that when you pull this one, see how the knot kind of slips? It might hold. It's probably pretty good, but it's also not the most secure, and it looks hideous. Supposedly, if the stories are true, from what I've heard about this one, the thief knot was from back in the old days of salty seamen, and they would tie their personal belongings in these bags, and then they would occasionally they'd have this thief knot, knowing that if someone untied it to rifle through their bag, they would know if someone was in their stuff if they came back and they had a perfect square knot, because they're all sailors, and a sailor does not tie a bad knot. Or at least they shouldn't, or they suck at their job. So, another one is what we call, you don't need this in, the figure 8 knot, which is super easy. You'll just pick it up, give it a twist, and you'll notice you'll have your tail end, which is what you'll be tying it with, underneath the leading end. So you'll just go up over top and then straight out the hole in the back, and then it'll look like that, a beautiful continuous figure 8. You can tighten it with your thumbs, and basically it's kind of like a lock knot. So for example, if you're on a boat or you're tying something to a tarp, if you have your rope through a hole and you don't want the rope to come out, this thing will stop itself in the hole because it's too thick to go through. So it's a really handy one to know. In the sailing world, this one is used very, very commonly. as an insurance in case one of their other knots comes loose. This is often a safety knot. I wouldn't trust it with your life, but I mean it's pretty darn good. And to undo it, you know push the loops these ways, and then the loose ends through, so it kind of comes undone. It's pretty secure even when a rope is wet. It's actually one of my favorites as well. Another type of kind of stop nut is the overhand knot. So you'll have a loop, you know, kind of like you did before, only instead of going around your leading end and through like the figure eight, you'll have your loop there, and then you just poke it through. And then you'll end up with a little pretzel shape, kind of like that. This thing will, like, you know, you can't really untie itself unless you push both ends together. So this is also a good one. The figure eight is usually used a lot more for a lock knot for like a cleat or pulley, whereas this one you'd normally have it on like, you know, to stop it from going through a hole. Okay, in my world, because I mostly sail dinghies, they're virtually interchangeable. Depending on your use, it might be better to do one or the other. But yeah, let's talk about another kind of knot. I'm gonna go get a friend for this one. All right, so the next knot we're gonna tie is called a bowline. It's spelled bowline, but that's a misnomer. So this knot is really good because it allows you to tie a rope using a loop to something fixed. So you might want, to practice, you might want something strong and unmovable, like a tree limb, or like...
Strong as a tree.
Hey, Eleanor, can I borrow your help for a sec?
Sure.
Okay, you too, Annika. This would be a lot easier to do without putting the camera in my mouth. Okay, cool. So... Okay, so you can come in a little bit closer, but like not super close. Yeah, there you go. So, the trick to the bowline is you want to make a loop on the leading end, not the tail end. But when you do this, I actually did that wrong. All right. So you want to make sure the end of the loop, the cross, the tail end is actually the one on top every time. Doesn't matter what side you tie it on, you always want the tail end on top. So you may have heard this before, but the leading end, the one on the bottom, is what we'll call the tree, because there's a kind of a nursery rhyme kind of thing that goes with this. So the rabbit, your tail end, goes up through the hole, around the tree, and then back down the hole, and then you just snug that up. Voila! You'll know if you tied it wrong if your knot actually collapses, so it's super obvious. So just practice that a couple times. You should get it eventually. This knot is also really good because no matter how much stress you put on it, as long as the rope itself doesn't snap, it's fairly easy to untie. So all you have to do is like pull that extra loop, pull your tail or your leading end out, and then from there it all just comes right undone. So again, tailing end, leading end, you want the tail end, goodness, this is annoying. Okay, tail end to be on top of the cross, and here's your tree. So it goes up around the tree and then down, and then you just whoop, That was a little sloppy, but again, it's super good so that this knot could even withstand the strength of Eleanor's excellent, just monster muscles. So, there you go. All right, thanks for joining me, everyone. These were some fairly standard knots. I think next time I'll try and put a couple more in, or we might do something completely different. It's coordinator's choice, who's to say? So, yeah, have a good day.